I just want to welcome everybody and think we're going to have a few more people coming in, but we just wanted to say thanks for coming to join this really fun event. My name is Kathleen Springer. I'm the board chair of the National Kidney Foundation of Wisconsin. And I am very, very pleased to welcome you all to Living Life Well After Transplant, our Fit and Fam Home Edition. We'll be starting our program shortly. But I would like to just, I have a couple of announcements, and I'd like to make one of the funnest new announcements that we're going to have is we're going to be welcoming our new CEO, Mike Crowley. I don't know if you had the opportunity to see the newspaper or see the any reports, but Mike is going to be joining us. He is the current CEO until Friday for Habitat for Humanity in Waukesha County. And he brings to us a solid reputation and background in the nonprofit sector. So we're super excited to be having him come and join our organization. He'll be starting on Monday. So we are real pleased to announce him. He comes to us with a huge passion for helping people, especially with kidney disease. He's got a son that had juvenile diabetes. So I'm very familiar with the trauma of a lifelong illness, as well as kidney disease immunosuppressants for those of you who are post-transplant. So we're really super excited to be welcoming him to our organization. They're going to be hearing a lot more from us on that. So we're really grateful to be welcoming him aboard. So there's just a couple of items that we're going to ask during this great event before I introduce our awesome presenter. First of all, if we could ask you to click on the participants and make sure that your first and last name is displayed appropriately. There's participants in the center of the screen. On the lower middle section of the screen, you'll see participants. And if you could just make sure your name is spelled correctly, your first and last name, that'll be very helpful for our presenters, as well as for us as we go through this, this great program. The next thing, if it's not, you can rename yourself by using the name that you use when you registered for this event. You know, on the computer, if you hover the mouse over your name and then click on the blue more button, you can choose rename and then change your name to whatever name it was that you used to register. So we'd be grateful if you did that. Next, I would like to share that you know, as participants, you should keep yourselves muted through the event. There is a chat box that you can use on the lower middle section of your screen that the moderator and you offer questions to Angie, who is going to be doing the program, and then we're going to be addressing those questions as we go through the program. So use the chat box, and then we will interject questions for Angie in that, so we can get those answered. She's got some great expertise in a lot of different things, so make sure you use that. And the microphone icon is what you can use on just to the left of the video button on the lower left-hand part of your screen. And then you can choose to mute your microphone. We would really appreciate it if you would do that. So as far as the program, don't forget to use the chat. The video icon next to it too. So if you're seeing yourself on the screen, you can use the video icon on the lower left-hand part of the screen as well. And if you just click on it, it'll take you off of your own camera. So then you're going to be able to view Angie, who's our presenter. So we're really excited to have them join us. So if you have any questions, let us know. But otherwise, why don't I go ahead and John, if you could go to the next screen, I'd be grateful. Oh, there's me. Well, that's not quite as important. But thanks so much. Now you can see a face to a name. And I'm also put my picture up so you can see as I'm talking, you can see who I am. I've been with the National Kidney Foundation for 7 years, and I am the board chair. I'm glad to be serving with this organization. I came to the National Kidney Foundation. My mother had kidney disease for a very long time. She unfortunately passed in 2012. And then I also ran the abdominal transplant clinic at Advocate Aurora. So I got very involved with National Kidney Foundation then, just to advocate for our patients and also to become part of an awesome educational advocacy and a training event, as you're going to see today. So thank you for that. We also want to remind you that the National Kidney Foundation is on Amazon Smile. So if you would visit smile.amazon.com and select the National Kidney Foundation, it will allow for us to get some extra kicks from all of the work, all of the investments that you make on Amazon. We'll get some donations back from them in order to continue our awesome legacy in this journey to help all people with kidney disease. In addition, we also have our kidney cars, and this is an awesome opportunity for you to save lives through getting rid of a car that you just don't know what to do with. It's very simple. You just call 1-800-488-CARS, and then they will come and arrange to pick up the car, get it off your hands, and you will be helping save lives through a donation of your car. So we would appreciate that support through that avenue as well. We've got a few upcoming events. We'll remind you about this at the end of the program, but our current program on February 9th, we're going to do Mindful Matters of the Heart, which is self-care practice for challenging times. On Tuesday, March 9th, we got a physician's confession, which is what I wish every patient would ask me. And that's going to be awesome because it's be from a transplant nephrologist who will allow you to answer any question or ask any question you want. And they'll be able to give you any type of feedback, either prior to transplant, or if a friend's got transplant, or if you've got questions about your recovery, any questions whatsoever, they would be very willing to help. And then of course, our Living Donors Together on January 19th, which is just next week, living donors who gave to someone they know. So this is a great group of people who've been recipients or givers of their kidneys. And so you can get a lot of information from them and speak to them one-on-one. Tuesday, February 16th, Getting Social with Living Donors. And then on March 16th, Living Donation in Communities of Color, which is a very big topic because people of color are more affected, as we know, by COVID as well, but by kidney disease, diabetes, and all other types of illnesses that contribute to kidney disease. So that would be a great educational event too. So thank you for listening. We talk about our upcoming program. So please look for announcements coming up to celebrate those. Now I want to introduce you to our keynote presenters today. Kevin Scharnek, who's the owner of Orangetheory Fitness of Wisconsin, is the part of the organization in which Angie Krueger, who's the regional fitness director for Orangetheory Fitness in Wisconsin. What I'd like to do is have her introduce herself to you, and then we'll let her go on with the program. And she's going to be the person you're going to be asking questions of, and tap into her resources. She's awesome at what she does. So I'm going to hand it over to Angie.
Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Just a little background about me. I've been with Orangetheory Fitness for 7 years. Our first studio opened in Brookfield, Wisconsin 6.5 years ago, so I was part of our pre-sales team. If you're not sure what Orangetheory is, it is a coach-led workout where we work with heart rate monitors. So it's technology, it's coach-led, technology-tracked, and coach-inspired workout that works you through 5 zones of heart rate monitor-based interval training. You're working in zones 3, 4, and 5, and your goal by the end of the workout is to work in those orange and red zones combined for a total of 12 minutes to get your afterburn. So we're going to not do that today, but I just want to direct you that if you ever wanted to check out a free workout, you can either come in studio. We have 11 locations across the state of Wisconsin, Madison, all the way to Milwaukee and 3rd Ward, and then up in Appleton as well. So 11 different studios you can check out, and different mask mandates for each, depending on what you're looking for or what you're closest to. You can also, if you're not comfortable or able to go into a studio that's nearby, you can go to Orangetheory at Home, so ORANGE THEORY@home.com, and you can get a free daily workout there, and they'll let you know what you need in the workout to participate that day. Usually they're between 30 and 40 minutes. And while it's not necessarily meant to get your heart rate up, it's meant to get the, muscles, burned. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn throughout the day. I also am with Orangetheory corporate headquarters as a template tester, and I'm a master educator for our headquarters in Boca Raton, Florida. My job is one of the most rewarding jobs ever, so I'm excited to be bringing you some of my little knowledge nuggets and some of my expertise as I've been in the fitness industry. Gosh, now I'm going to date myself back since college, 1996 at Indiana University. So it's been a long journey to get where I am right now. I am a mom of 3 kids. My son is a freshman at University of Alabama, Birmingham, where he is majoring in nursing school. And right now he's in the ER, and I have 16 and 15-year-old daughters in high school. So always a challenge with some teenage girls. A little background about Kevin, which is the whole reason we're here. Kevin, our owner, has been with Orangetheory obviously since the beginning with me. I knew him from, a previous life, but Kevin actually donated his kidney to his daughter. So a very, selfless act. Obviously, we're all about saving our children at no matter what the cost, but a very selfless act for him to donate his kidney to his daughter. So I guess I'm going to talk right now about some exercises that you can do at home. Again, I understand that not everyone can do an at-home workout or go into the studio or the gym or wherever you are. But the best way for me to see you, because I don't want you sitting there and popping some popcorn or eating some food, I actually want active participants so that I can check form. The best way for me to check form is to have you undo your video. So if you're comfortable doing that, I won't call out any names, but that's the best way where I can see you top to bottom so we can get a good form. So I actually have been kneeling here so that you can see all the equipment that's in the background from here. And you can ask any questions about any form. We're going to go through lower body first. So any kind of lower body exercises for the legs. So if you have that where you can kind of adjust your screen, and then if you step back from your screen, you can kind of see that top to down, top to bottom look. So if you got the email, I had asked for if you have any kind of options for like a chair. If you know that milk gallon jugs, the gallon jugs, they weigh 8 pounds when you fill them with water or milk. So if you fill those are immediate 8-pound dumbbells if you don't have dumbbells at home. For smaller muscle groups such as shoulders, you can always use cans. So like soup cans, pinto beans, black beans, that's what I have today. And any kind of mini band that you have, I'll show you what they look like. I'm gonna go grab it. But mini bands offer great resistance that dumbbells don't always offer as options. So I'll show you how to put these on and how we can work lower body, upper body, and a little bit of core as well. Throughout the program today, I am going to go through options as well. Just it's important to have options as well as it is challenges. So if there's ever something that you have a question about, obviously, Kathleen had talked about putting something in the chat bar so that you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I'm here for you, and I'm going to teach you how to gamify it tonight. We as adults, we don't have that competition, that competitive drive as we get older, and we really do. It's figuring out how to tap into it. So when we're going through tonight, I'm going to go through lower body, upper body, chest and back, and core. And I'm going to try to talk as slow as I can. By nature, I'm a fast talker. And I'm also going through coaches training this week, so training 9 new coaches. So I apologize about my scratchy voice right now. But again, if you have any questions, put them in the chat feature below. Otherwise, we're going to get started with some lower body work right now. I'm going to turn on a little background music, and just so you know, this isn't my personal music, so it's through an app called Rock My Run, which is one of my favorite apps to use at home as well. Again, Rock My Run, it's a great app where you can figure out how you're gonna do any kind of music. If you like pop, if you like rap, if you like dance music, it has all sorts of varieties and genres. So it's a good thing to, get on your phone, on your iPad, and kind of play it in the background. So let's start off. We're going to talk about your basic squat. I'm going to go through form here. So when you're doing a basic squat, you want to always talk about protecting the knees and the lower back. So how you position yourself is typically about feet hip distance apart. and your hips and butt go back and down. So it's like you're sitting in a chair, the chair's been taken away, and you're coming right back up, squeezing your glutes to the top. I'm gonna show you from the side so you can see how my knees track right over my midfoot. Hardest thing is to try not to bring your knees in front, which is what a lot of people wanna do. So instead, keeping all the weight in your heels as you shift your butt back and down, it's almost like you're gonna feel like you're gonna fall over. So that's your basic squat. If you have any kind of injury, you can always work in the top half, so only going halfway down and coming all the way up. And if you need furthermore like a challenge, you can always take it down, pause it and hold it, and come up to the top. For anybody that has a back injury, keeping that chest forward is always the most important thing. So kind of looping your hands behind your back. If you do that, squat will help keep it so that you're not rounding the shoulders coming forward and you're able to keep your shoulders back for that postural purpose. Again, that great option here for any kind of back injuries. So that's your basic squat. We're gonna work into lunges now. And the reason people are afraid of lunges is because you're trying to put all the weight in your toe, which ends up hurting your knee. So we're gonna teach you how to shift all of your weight back in your heel. So if I'm sitting here, I'm gonna coach you. Your feet are on railroad tracks, not a balance beam. We're no longer gymnasts as we get a little older. And if you are a gymnast, that's great. You probably have better balance than I do. That balance check is always hard to do. So you're gonna slide one foot back on the railroad track. So your feet are always there, toes pointed forward. All the weight's gonna be in your front heel as you drop that back knee about fist distance from the ground and coming right back up. Same thing with any kind of knee injury. You wanna make sure you're working in that top half. So halfway down, all the way up. You can do one side at a time, then the other. Another thing that's a really big challenge if you don't need the option and you're looking for a little bit more, you can go all the way down and only halfway up. We call that more of a pulsing lunge. One thing that I caution is if anybody has any blood pressure issues, you don't want to just hold it. You never want to hold an iso squat or an iso hold with any type of blood pressure issues that you have. I'll show you from the side what that lunge looks like. So you're finding that 90-90 position, never touching that back knee to the ground as that front knee steps right over your foot. Again, chest is always lifted. Back injury, just like before, you can keep your hands back here. Body weight is always an acceptable form. I find that I get a really good workout with body weight, but you can also hold dumbbells in your hands as well. Again, if you have a gallon milk jug in one hand, one in the other, you're adding 16 pounds to that workout. So body weight is perfectly acceptable, especially if you're just getting started with working out again. We're going to talk about a wall sit next. And basically you're sitting up against the wall. So you're leaning up against it. Let's see if I can rotate through here. I'll use this wall. So you're going to find your knees at that 90-90 position and shoulders go up against the wall. Could you balance a quarter on your thighs and making sure that your toes are up and you're powering through your heels. Again, if this is too much, take it up so it's a half range. You're still gonna feel the benefits of that wall squat here. Try not to lean forward or put your hands on your thighs. You can always keep your shoulders up against that wall and hands next to you. Just make sure you're always able to wiggle your toes. That's the one thing we coach as we're taking it through. All right, so let's move on to hamstring work. So a lot of times those hamstrings, the back of the legs, we're gonna do 2 exercises with the hamstrings. We're gonna do a deadlift. And again, you can have body weight or those lighter weights. It doesn't have to be necessarily heavy. But I'm gonna show you from the side. So my cans of pinto beans and black beans are my dumbbells today. Your feet are gonna be, again, hip distance apart. Think those railroad tracks. And from here, you're gonna soften the knees, keep your shoulders pulled back as you tick forward, going only as low as your hamstrings can go. I'm a runner and I'm a horrible flexibility person. So for me, this is where I'm gonna stop. And then I'm gonna squeeze my glutes, my butt cheeks tight as I come up to the top. If you're a little bit more flexible and can go farther, that's fine. Just make sure to watch for the rounding of the shoulders. We don't want you here. We want you in that proud chest posture as you're sliding those soup cans, dumbbells, anything right back up to the top of the thighs. A great option, especially if you have a back injury, is to find the soup cans, your weights, whatever, along the side of your body. It takes pressure out of the low back by just shifting where those dumbbells go. A simple fix but a game changer to target the back of those legs. Another good exercise is what we call a hamstring curl, or sorry, a hamstring hip bridge. So when you get on the ground and you're gonna find yourself with those feet hip distance apart, a dumbbell or a weight is gonna go right up on your hips, and you're gonna bring your hips up, stopping at the top, slowly coming back down. Work through your heels. You're gonna be able to pop those hips up and then slowly come back down in that hip bridge position. Again, if you're looking for more of a challenge, you can always put a dumbbell on your hips. And if you're looking for more of an option, body weight sit. If you're looking for a little bit more of a challenge, even on top of that, if you do a single leg, meaning you're gonna keep 1 foot up, 1 foot down, and then you're gonna lift and lower from here. Again, you can use body weight or you can use a dumbbell. It's up to you depending on where you are in your fitness journey. Another great exercise is a lateral lunge. So we always work in this plane, working that frontal plane. If you think about cutting your body in half, we're always wiping that glass that separates us. So we never really work those outer glutes on the sides or glute medius. So sometimes when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh man, I'm so tight here. It's because we haven't worked our glute medius. So I'm going to teach you how to do a lateral lunge today, and I prefer body weight here, and I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do it. So your feet are going to start off hip distance apart. As you step wide to the left side or the right side, your toe is forward, and you're going to sink back so your knee goes right over the midfoot. I'll show you as I step back from the side. From here, I'm going to step, and I'm going to sink back. Again, so watch my knee, it's right over midfoot. Most people either turn their toes out with it, or they bring their hips forward so their heel lifts off the ground. So I want you to visually try to screw your heel into the ground, wiggling those toes just like we did with the wall sit. So as you're coming side to side, you can either stay all on one side, or you can alternate left and then right. You can also stay with your feet wide. So if you're not comfortable stepping to either side because it's a lot of motion, think rubbing your belly and patting your head, can you put that all together? Or if you want to get the basic movements, taking the toes forward and the feet wide, you can keep your feet planted here and then just work through the motion to feel what you're supposed to feel. The more you end up pressing your booty back, the more you're also going to feel it in your hamstrings as well as those glutes. But it's important if you have a logo on your shirt, you have a mirror that you're able to look at, that you're able to see that logo in the shirt, meaning you don't want to be here for it, you want to be here. Again, back injuries, loop the hands behind your back as you head side to side. If you're a little bit more ready for a challenge, you can always put dumbbells in your hand as you do that as well, heading side to side, and you're always going to be framing the knee that you go to, meaning you don't want the dumbbells on the inside, you're going to kind of frame it here. So you want to make sure that it's not, goofy, setup, that you're not slugging them back and forth and in front and then in back. So that is a good start for any kind of leg work. We can also add this mini band in, and I'm just gonna do a do as I say and as I do. Whenever you're working with a mini band, you always want to be seated when you put it on. Typically, we want to put it about 1 inch or 2 below your knee, but if you have any outer knee injuries, a great option is putting it 1 inch or 2 above your knee. So I always like to sit when I put it on. You think you're going to have great balance, and you go to put it on, and then your foot gets caught in it, and you end up falling down. So definitely don't want that to happen. So I'm sitting on my coffee table right now, just because that's a great low option to sit on. I'm going to put one foot in and then slide the other foot on. You can go on shoporangetheory.com and you can buy your own pair of mini bands. It comes with 3 mini bands in it. There's green, orange, and red. Green is the lightest resistance, orange is medium, and red is the most resistance. We don't usually typically use red, only because the heavy resistance, we don't need it. Green and orange is always an incredible option for what we got doing. Mini bands, the reason why we use mini bands, it's the only time we can target exercises that typical body weight exercises and weights don't touch. So think of those little mini muscles in your glutes and in your hips. When I wake up every morning, I've got tight hips. So I just know that mini bands are always going to help with that. So we can start off those same exercises that we did before. You can have squats here. And what I'm looking for is not letting the knees buckle in. So you really want to open up those knees so you're sitting your butt back and down. That puts that extra pressure on those outer glutes where you're going to feel that right here. So great opportunity there. Another good exercise is a squat to a leg lift. So you're going to squat, stop at the top. It's a small movement, lifting that leg up. What we're not looking for is like a tip and a kick. So you just want to make sure that when I'm doing it, my shoulder is stacked over my hip, over my knee, over my foot, that I'm not excessively leaning with it. Again, if you do have a knee injury or if you need to take that range of motion, you can always take it an inch or two above your knees. Another great exercise is holding that iso squat. So even staying in that top half, toes are forward. You're going to take 3 steps forward and then 3 steps back. See if you can get through maybe 4 or 5 reps there. We'll talk about reps all at the end. You also want to make sure that when you're doing this, your toes are forward. Nobody wants to turn into a penguin and then rotating from here. So just make sure that chest, hips, knees, everything is going forward along those railroad tracks. You can also do the same thing laterally. So from here, stepping a little bit wider, and then right back, hip distance apart. You want to make sure you're not letting, I'll show you from this way, you're not letting your legs go back together too far. That you're keeping constant tension on that mini band, because that's what's going to change those hips and glutes. So I think that's it for mini bands right now. Again, make sure you're sitting down if you take it off, not doing what I just did. Let's talk about arms. So we've got these fabulous arms. We want to target some bicep work. And instead of just regular bicep curls, which I'll show you, twisting those cans or those gallon milk jugs about a fist distance from your shoulder, straightening them out all the way. We also have what's called a hammer curl. So hammer curl is going to keep those palms facing in, taking the end of the soup can all the way up to your shoulder and straight back down. A way to make it harder or easier to work a little bit more range of motion is staying from the side in a bottom half. So maybe you work 8 bottom half reps. From here you go 8 top half, finding that perfect 90-degree angle elbows stand to your shoulders. Maybe you take it through full range of motion after both of those. So good options for anybody who's trying to look to get that bicep a little bit bigger. We also have tricep dips. So there's a couple different ways to work our triceps. Those are the muscles at the back. There's 3 heads to them as opposed to bicep, which is 2, tricep right along the back. So when I'm sitting here on my table, I'm going to put my palms next to me and I'm going to slide my hips forward so my butt is hanging just off of the table. You're going to let yourself go all the way down and then pressing all the way back up through your hands. If you need a little help, you can always use your legs to help you up. But what I'm not looking for is your body away so far. That'll hurt your shoulders over time. So keeping your back as close to the table, the bench, the chair as you can. If you have a shoulder injury and that doesn't feel good, even taking only a half rep range of motion, I'll show you what we can do. We can go overhead, and I'm going to actually grab a dumbbell for this. So sitting up overhead, you can do the seated or standing. The elbows are tight to your head. You're watching the dumbbell disappear over your head and pressing straight back up. So that's called an overhead tricep extension. And then we also have an exercise called a tricep kickback. So if I'm going to put those soup cans back in my hands, I'm going to watch myself from the side, tipping forward. This is called a hinge. You're in a standing position. You're going to soften your knees. You're going to press your butt back so that my back is flat. You can see it straight line from my head all the way down to my butt, meaning I'm not going to roll forward here, and I'm not kind of in this weird moving position. My elbows are going to be up at shoulder height, and they're going to stay there in this fixed position as my arms extend and come right back so my wrist ends up right under my elbows. This small movement targets everything that is feeling good on the back of those arms. So when you go to take a shower next day, you're like, oh my gosh, why can't I straighten out my arms? It becomes like this T-Rex shampoo kind of thing. So that hits up triceps. We also can work our shoulders. We have what's called front raises and lateral raises. So from here, I'll show you the dumbbells are at my thighs. And I'm going to lift them right up to shoulder height and slowly right back down. So Typical front raise from here. We can also do the same thing off to the side, and then it's called the lateral raise. So if you're watching yourself in a mirror, you want those arms to stop at shoulder height and right back down. For those of you that have a shoulder injury, I'm gonna actually have you hold them like it's a bicep curl, and we're gonna shorten the levers here just by lifting your elbows up to shoulder height. So a good way to figure out those shoulder injuries and how you can give options just by lessening that range of motion. We also have a V raise. So from the front of your thighs, you're going to raise the dumbbells just slightly wider than shoulder width apart, and then right back to your thighs. The reason you try to do this instead of putting them on the side of your body is sometimes you find yourself swinging to kind of cheat into that range of motion. So for biceps and triceps and shoulder raises, when you're in that position, I really want you to embrace those cough muscles, those super deep muscles right in your belly. So if you put your fingers just at your belly button or underneath, cough right now. Feel those muscles that worked? That's what you want to kind of engage. So you want to really zip up your core from the front, hold it here, and then start your exercises. That way your core is engaged the whole time and there won't be any funny business going on with your hips. You want to make sure you have that stability before mobility. And I'm going to say that a couple times today, stability before mobility. The movement doesn't start, work your core and engage it. So great options for those shoulder presses. If you have heavier dumbbells, you can find this 90-degree angle, pressing up overhead and then back to shoulder height. I really like to say Packer field goal is what we're looking for. However, I'm going to let you know, just out of transparency, I grew up a Bears fan, so don't hate me. Don't type anything nasty in the chat feature. It's just, I grew up there. So I'm still going to say Packer field goal for you. You can do it seated as well. So as long as you're watching, meaning you're not talking to your dumbbells or your soup cans, you're finding that perfect 90-degree position overhead. You don't have to go any lower with your elbows than right here. This is a great target for anything pressing up and right back. If you drop your elbows below shoulder height, it just puts unnecessary strain on your shoulders. So you can kind of stop right there, finding that Packer field goal or whatever team you represent. Moving on, we're going to do a little bit more back work. So we talked about legs, we talked about arms and shoulders. So now we're going to work on our back, our lats, and we're going to find that same position. I'm going to show you 3 different exercises. Again, soup cans up to dumbbells. I want you to find yourself in that hip hinge position that we talked about earlier. It's almost the end of that deadlift. But again, watching that position, we have a low row where your dumbbells or your soup cans turn in. Pinching shoulder blades going back to the spine. You can see my elbows are at that 90-degree position. To make something a little bit harder if you don't have heavier dumbbells, we work with what's called tempo. So tempo just changes the speed in which you do the movement. It can make dramatic results. An exercise that might seem a little easier with the dumbbells, a little bit harder. So how do we make it tempo? We're going to take it up and hold, and then slowly coming back down. You can do that with any of the exercises we did. That tempo change makes it just slightly harder because now your muscles are forced to engage and hold instead of what you see kind of at the gym where they're all over the place using momentum to pop up. We also have what's called a high row. So that same position you had before, but instead of your palms facing in, they're going to face back so your palms are facing your thighs. You're going to take the elbows wide to the side, so almost framing the side of your chest instead of coming in towards the ribs 90 back. So low row, and then we have high row. Again, you can use any type of dumbbell with that. Then we have what's called a reverse grip low row. So all of these different variations work different parts of your muscles, and you'll feel it. You'll feel them work a little bit more inner back to outer back. So the inner part of the lats, the outer part of the lats. You just want to make sure if you have a mirror, when you're in this hinge position, you're not looking at yourself in the mirror. I know you all have beautiful faces when you're working out. Just make sure you're looking down at the ground about 6 feet in front of you. The reason why, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you usually lift your body up a little bit, and then you end up working different muscle groups. So we want to try to avoid that. Palms facing away from you, it's called a reverse grip low row. So you're going to pinch that same back. So you're still looking for that 90-degree position, but now it changes the way your lats are getting worked because your dumbbells aren't here, they're turned away. And it shifts all the weight from this dumbbell head all over the part of your body so that you can work your back different ways. We've also got, you can make it a little harder. So this is a tough one. If you would have a bench or a chair and you want to find this position in a plank position, so that shoulder is straight line head to heel, you can grab one dumbbell, so you can, and you can not only engage your core, but you can add that row into it. So whether it's a high row or a low row or reverse grip, this makes it a little bit more challenging. So lots of options and challenges in your pocket. Now for our chest, everybody knows how to do a push-up. So we're gonna take that push-up in a few different options. So if you watch me you can do from your toes, you can take it from your knees, or we have a lot of members who have had mastectomies from breast cancer. So we take them up to the wall and they'll find that push-up against the wall standing up. So whatever you're in fitness journey, you do you. I'm gonna show you from the toes. You have a straight line head to heel. Imagine your body's a surfboard and you don't want to keep your butt up and you also don't want to peck at the ground. You're not an animal. So bring your tush forward. You're going to get as close to the ground, about a fist distance from the ground as you can. Again, if you need the option, taking it to your knees. The reason I keep my toes on the ground and not off, when you keep your toes on the ground, you end up working your lower core just a little bit more. So where we were coughing and felt that movement from the belly button, that's the muscles you want to engage a little bit more. So from your knees, again, you can also do it from the wall. So any kind of variation or limitations that you have, you can always go up to the wall and just lower yourself into it, press yourself back. The further away from the wall your feet go, the more of a challenge it just becomes. You always want your hands, if they're going to be on the wall, by your chest or where your chest will go. If they're too high, it works different muscle groups as you come in, and it might strain your shoulder. If you go too low, you might find that it's working tricep a little bit more. So the wider your hands go, the more it works your chest. The more narrow they come, the more it works your triceps. And when you work your triceps, if you want to challenge yourself to a tricep push-up, that's fine. You just have to make sure the elbows are tight to your body, not flaring away. So you see that flare position ends up putting unnecessary stress on your elbows, your shoulders, and all the body parts that just don't feel good. So if you're going to do that tricep push-up, again, as you lower down from your toes or your knees, elbows tight to your body, almost like if you had like a tank top on, you could feel the material rubbing against the inside of your arms. So that becomes a little bit more of that chest work. Wider the hands again, more chest, a little bit more narrow. You can do it from your toes, knees against the wall. And now my favorite, abs. Everybody wants abs. Just a forewarning, your abs are earned in the kitchen. However, it's more about the core, which supports you. So when everybody says your abs, your core, for me personally, it's not about the superficial abs. It's about the abs down below that are going to help support you to keep your back from hurting, to keep muscle imbalances from happening. So here's some core exercises, and we've got a lot of them. So if you have a notepad or notes, feel free to take them right now. We're going to start with a simple crunch and a sit-up, and options and variations for those as we go. So while you're here, your knees are going to be bent, fingertips by your temples, and you're going to do a crunch up. Your goal is to look between your legs. It's a small movement. So crunching up and lowering yourself back down. We also have what's called a static crunch, meaning you're going to hold the crunch, and you're going to have your hands here to reach around and try to touch your heels. So a static crunch with an alternating heel touch. We also have a full sit-up. So I'm going to struggle with this one. You heard me say I have 3 kids. So you can put your fingertips to your temples. I like keeping my legs a little bit more straight so that it actually gives me that opportunity to come all the way up to my butt. Now, as you're progressing with this exercise, if you can't do the sit-up without keeping your heels down on the ground, you can use your hands to help you cheat a little bit. But the goal someday, not today, is to get all the way up to your butt by keeping your elbows back and not pulling on your head. So with any of the core exercises, you want to make sure your elbows are back. You're leading with your chest, and you're going to be able to feel all of those abs from here coming all the way up. So again, slowly coming up off, and then slowly going back down. But if you need a little help, here's what you do. Those hands go overhead, and you can help pull yourself up. So my hands were the momentum to bring myself up, and that's okay. For those of you that have the back injury, again, that crunch might feel a little bit better than a full sit-up. So take those options if you need to. Another good option is to sit all the way back down, working that downward phase, maybe a crunch, and then maybe you have to move to the side to pull yourself up, and then you work your way back in that down phase. Just trying to go as slow as you can on the way down. If you need that help, just rotating to the side to bring yourself up. I'll show you again. So slowly coming back down, and then if you need to, roll over to the side to help you back up, and then work it back down. At least you're working some sort of that decel phase of the sit-up, so that'll help you. Another one we've got is a toe reach. Toe reach is going to target the upper core a little bit, so you can always have your feet right up above your hips, dumbbell or no dumbbell, and you're going to reach for the toes at the top. With all of the work on the hard part, you're going to exhale on the way up, and your goal is to be inhale on the way back down. So exhale up, inhale back down with those exercises. So we just did upper core, some obliques. We're going to go over the standard bicycle, which is going to target obliques. Think your cross slings right here. So your core, we're going to feel it right in here. And I'm going to teach you a couple different variations of the bicycle. One of my favorites, when you're on your back and you're lifting your feet up, if you need more of an option, lift your feet a little higher up. Those legs can be a little bit higher. You don't have to be so low. If I were coming up to coach you, I would put my hand in the small of your back, between the small of your back and the ground. And if at any point you're arching off, you've already done your body a disservice. You almost want to bring your hips forward. So it's like you're making a thin crust pizza between your back and the ground. So again, I've had 3 kids. My last one was a C-section, so those abdominal muscles have been cut into. So for those of you that have had a transplant where you have been cut into as well, a little deeper, you might find that it's a little bit harder to do the core work. So taking it back to the basics and being okay with it, don't give yourself a hard time about it, but finding that basic movement. Same with, any kind of things that you do where you're trying to bring the legs low with it, you just want to make sure that there's no space between your lower back and the ground. So again, zipping up from the front, trying to push your lower back into the ground the whole time. So the whole point of core isn't to do quantity of reps, it's all about quality, and the quality starts from here by zipping up and pressing down. If at any point any of these exercises, find your lower back off the ground, stop what you're doing and reset your posture. So for the toe reaches, it's a little bit easier to do, but if I were to have you to stop right here and hold your knees 90-degree position over your hips, and now I'm going to have you lower your feet down so the heels are touching and then coming right back up. You might find that that position opens up your ribs and pushes from here, and then now I've lost that. So if you know that your range of motion is maybe here, just a smaller range of motion, and you feel your lower back start to come off there, start there. Don't do the full range of motion with it. First and foremost, you need to protect you, your back, and the integrity of your body and the workout. So listen to your body, it's the most important to you. Don't ever try to push through an exercise. I know the old school way is no pain, no gain. That's not what we're looking for here. We're just trying to get you back into the swing of things. Again, trying to find your muscle again, just trying to get your body moving. Another great exercise, you've all heard of plank. So a lot of times people do plank wrong, and I'm actually going to show you how plank will benefit you. It targets so many muscles, not only in your thighs, your hamstrings, and your glutes, but every muscle in your core when it's done properly. First and foremost, the plank is done from your forearms. When it's done from your forearms, it targets your core. When it's done from your hands, your shoulders are allowed to cheat and help you out a little bit. So we want the full range of the motion for that benefit. Toes or knees is always the option, but I'm going to set it up right here for my forearms. My butt's at shoulder height. We're not in yoga, so no down dog. We also don't want to hurt our back, so we're not going to let this arch happen. You're going to find that straight line, and often we see people arch from here. So again, I'm going to need you to tuck your tush, zipping up your core from the front, and imagine you're pulling the earth between your toes and your forearms. So that constant pull back. Option is your knees. When you're from your knees, your butt's not back here. You got to keep your butt forward to the party. So bring it to that plank party for us. always keeping all the weight between your forearms and your hands. So you never want to target just your elbows. You want to make sure that your weight's equally distributed all the way between your hand and your elbow. So keeping that constant tension in your forearms. Different variations of plank. We have something that's called plank with rotation and plank with a hip dip. So when I'm setting everybody up for plank with rotation, side plank is always the preferred method to start. So I'm going to get all the weight on my right side between my elbow and my hand, and I'm going to open up my chest and I'm going to wave high. If you need an option, always dropping your bottom knee down to the ground. And look what I did with my back leg. I tucked it back behind me. If I were to keep it here on the ground, it's going to put pressure on my ankle and not feel good. So here's your option for any kind of side plank hip dip. You're going to let your hip drop straight down and come right back up. You don't want to see a huge motion, so I don't want to be up here. I just want to find side plank so my body is always that straight line. Hip drop and hip come back up. Option again from that bottom knee. Another one's a rotation. So from here, saluting a soldier, fingertips to temples, rotating the elbow down to touch your hand, and then opening up to the side. Again, your option, keeping that bottom knee down, is you rotate through. It's really hard to find those obliques, and I can feel it right under here from my armpit all the way down to my hip. Great target for those extra obliques, what we like to call the love handles. So love handles are the target for there. I think we got everything that I wanted to cover exercise-wise. Now we're going to talk about how to put it all together, because I just overloaded you with a lot of information. So when we're overloading with information, it's easy to say, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm never going to be able to stick to something. But what we're going to do for you is talk about what we can do for putting reps together. So if everything I gave you, you could target 1 or 2 muscle groups a day, you can do 8 reps of everything, 10 reps of everything, 12 reps of everything. So different rep counts. You can pick an upper body, a lower body, pick one body group. You know, there's some guys in here who love to do, there's a lot of guys who like to do chest work or leg work or back work. So you can always superset some of those muscle groups together. So you have chest and back, biceps and triceps are those opposing muscle groups every time you work your chest. You also work your triceps as well. So you can superset those together. So push-ups and then tricep dips. You can put it together again as a full body workout. So you can pick one exercise from each muscle group: chest, back, shoulders, biceps, triceps, legs, and core. You can set a timer for 15 to 30 minutes, picking one exercise from each of those muscle groups and going all the way through a circuit as many times as you can. I know everybody wants to hear about the burpee, right? Because the burpee is your favorite exercise. All right, so burpee, so often it's called a belly flop because we're not separating the movement. So today we're going to teach you how to squat, hands to the ground, kick or walk your feet back to that high plank position, meaning we're not going to let our hips sag. We're going to stop it here. From your toes or your knees, you have a full push-up. Take it back to your toes if you were on your knees. You can either walk your feet forward or you can jump them forward and return to that squat position if you're feeling sassy, and a hop at the top. If you're not, you can always take it up to your tippy toes for a calf raise. So a good option again, squat, walk your feet back, knees for the push-up, walk your feet forward, stand up to the top. So burpee is always my favorite thing to do at the end of a circuit. So you've picked one of every body, exercise group, and then you tack on the same amount of burpees at the end, and then see how many rounds you can get through. There's so many different ways that you can vary, give variations or options to the workout. And then we're adults. I talked in the beginning about how we can gamify it. The gamify is the huge thing. The gamify is what keeps us competitive in our spirit. And I play laundry lunges with my kids. So I have 3 kids. Now that my oldest is out of the house, it's just the girls trying to get through laundry, and they're girls. So their stuff is strewn everywhere. They have at most underwear, bras, leggings, sweatshirts, sweaters. So I don't want to go and nag them. So when I see that they haven't done their laundry, all right, ladies, laundry time. So one at a time, Everybody grab only one article of clothing. You can't grab 2 socks at a time. You can only grab 1 sock, 1 pair of underwear, 1 bra. So whatever you're doing, and you have to lunge on the way there, but maybe jump, squat on the way back to your room to get it. So you grab 1 article of clothing, it's walking lunges, so it looks something like this. You're really silly when you do it, but you have to walk, trying to get that front knee over the ankle, and you go put it in the washing machine, and then you have to frog like hop all the way back. So it's a game I played with them since they were 4. And, same with when they fight, here's what we got. You got wall sits, you got timeout corner. So it's just a fun way to gamify it when they're younger. Now that they're older, it becomes a little bit more fun, and now it's competitive. All right, kids, laundry lunging, and we're going to work for a $5 Starbucks gift card or chores. However you can gamify it and make it fun so that it doesn't seem like a chore or an exercise that mom's forcing me to do. They have fun with it. Another thing you can do, how many of you watch Netflix or you have TV shows that you watch? So I'm a glutton for punishment. I still watch Grey's Anatomy, but every time those commercials come on, better believe I'm not just sitting there. Pick an exercise to do during the commercial. So it's usually I alternate with push-ups, plank, which is the hardest to hold for like 2.5 minutes, taking it to your knees. Sometimes I'll play an iso push-up hold and a plank hold, and I go back and forth between the two. And when I fail or I just can't do it anymore, I flip to the other one. So iso push-up hold, you're gonna hold this bottom half of the push-up. When you can no longer hold it, you're gonna hold plank. When you can no longer hold that, back to that iso push-up. So going back and forth between that plank and push-up. You can also do a squat or lunges or 10 squats, 10 lunges. Anything you can do to kind of gamify it and give you something to do during commercials. I'm kind of a glutton for punishment. So I did Ironman 6 weeks ago in Cozumel. Who does Ironman during a pandemic? But I just wanted to make good choices during a pandemic. So instead of, making poor choices with like alcohol or food, I chose to focus on me and working out and nutrition. And for 2021, my goal is to run 8 miles a day and do 100 push-ups. So for me, I'm just focusing on when those commercials come on, trying to get my 100 push-ups in, 10 sets of 10, need a break as long as I can. But think of ways to gamify it, make it fun for you, make it fun for your family. Maybe you can bring friends into it. So at work, bring some colleagues into, a transformation challenge of sorts as we hit January and a new year. We all had excuses for 2020, myself included, but it's how to overcome those excuses. Have you heard it? 2021. So 2020 did not win. We have to win in 2021. So it's just making good choices and trying to stay connected to your body and making yourself stronger, healthier. You always heard to get the mind right, to get the grind right. So great opportunity to use this time to the best of your ability and give you everything you got. Anybody have any specific questions? Besides me just talking the entire time, sorry.
I was just going to say the same thing. I had a little bit of trouble with my chat, so I wanted to open it up if people wanted to unmute and ask some specific questions. I think that would be a great idea for you to go ahead and do that. Julie, she's given us some great information. So please just ask questions. Anybody, if you have any nutrition, she's got some special certifications in nutrition. So any nutrition questions that you have would be great.
This is Karen. I just had a comment maybe for your next presentation. The music didn't sound like music. It was just kind of scratchy in the foreground and hard to hear your voice all the time. Okay. But I did enjoy, well, not enjoy, but I will work on some of these and you explained very well. So thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize about the music.
Oh, it's okay.
One of the things I would like to learn about, I'm somebody with a back problem, but I always did like burpees. I'm one of those weird ones. Is there something you might recommend for a burpee with somebody that has a back problem, or some of our transplant folks, they've got some, some weakened abdominal issues? Is there exercises that you might be able to recommend for that?
As far as the burpees concerned, definitely take the option of squatting and walking your feet back. That way you can get used to the plank and how the plank feels, and to be able to engage those calf muscles that I had talked about, so that you're not jumping your feet back and letting your hips, slam down. you know, a lot of people make it into like a belly flop. So when you can walk your feet back and get used to that form, then you can get used to jumping your feet back as well and not letting the hips sag. A great opportunity for getting your back, you know, to try to figure out the plank is holding a plank too and taking the options from your knees so that you're not letting your low back start to arch, that you can actually tuck your pelvis under. So when I'm, instead of a here position, I'm tucking my tush under and zipping up my core from the front. It will make a huge difference in the plank.
Okay, thank you.
That.
Is there anybody else that had any questions? Or wanted to understand different ways or different combinations of things for your specific needs? Okay. Well, wonderful. Well, I can't tell you how much we really appreciate all of your help and all the great, great, great instruction. Know that this particular presentation is going to be out on our website at www.kidneywi.org, living well before, after transplant, and you'll be able to select this video. And then you'll be able to pinpoint different exercises you may want to do or add to the regimen that you're already doing. I also wanted just to remind everybody that Angie is always available and you can reach out to her. We're going to be having some contact information for Orangetherapy available to you as well, so you can ask some specific questions if you think of things down the road. We really wanted to thank both Kevin and Angie for taking the time to put this presentation together. So thank you very much, Angie.
Thank you, Angie.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody that this is going to be out on our website. So please do reflect back on it. And also please keep in mind that we do have our upcoming 2021 programs coming up in later this month, next week, and then in February and March. We look forward to seeing you all then. And again, thank you to Angie and Orangetherapy for this great information. And there's the link for the video for your future reference. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.